Welcome to our class on Chassidus. We're going to be learning this week a beautiful Chassidic discourse from the Rebbe. The name of the Chassidic discourse is called Vayikach. The Rebbe said this Chassidic discourse on Shabbos Parshas Koirach, which that year was the Gimel Tamuz, the third day of the month of Tamuz, in the year Tafshin Memches, 35 years ago. So again, the Chassidic discourse is based on the verse where it opens and it says Vayikach Koirach, and Koirach took. And the Rebbe said it's known, the points that are pointed out in Likutei Torah, which is the classical work from the Alter Rebbe, on the beginning of this week's Torah portion, which we call the Chassidic Torah portion, the Chassidic Torah portion. And he asks, you have to understand the whole idea of the argument of Koirach and his whole entourage against Moshe and Aaron. So that's question number one. What was the base of the whole argument? And also the argument that Koirach had on the priesthood of Aaron. Like Rashi says, that he comes along and he said, the way he presented his argument, he says, if you have a talis, a prayer shawl, which is totally made out of tcheles, a blue wool, so the question is, do you need to have the strands of tzitzis that have the blue wool as well? In other words, and the Rebbe goes on to add, and he says that he also asked another question, which is brought down in the Medrash. He asked, if you have a house that's full of Torah books, holy books, the question is, do you need the parchment, the mezuzah on the doorpost? And when they responded to him, yes, a talis that's full of tcheles, you still need the tzitzit, and a house that's full of books, you still need the mezuzah, he started to laugh. So it says in the Medrash. And it's brought down and it's explained, the Chassidic discourse is that Koirach wasn't a stupid person. He was a pikayachaya, he was very, very smart. So, in other words, there was a deep argument that Koirach was having with Moshe Rabbeinu. Koirach was very, very smart, and he saw that in the future, when the Mashiach comes, when the Messiah is going to come, the Leviim, the Levites are going to be priests. Why? Because the Koyanim are the attribute of chesed, kindness, and the Leviim, the Levites, are the attribute of Gevurah, severity. So today, we need chesed, we need kindness, we need love. However, in the future, what's going to be revealed? The real power of Gevurah, the real power of discipline, the real power of being in awe of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because we know the idea of the priest is to serve Hashem. And in today's day and age, so what in a revealed way, what's more important? To be kind and to be strict. So we know it's about being kind. So therefore, that's why the priests, the kohanim, which represent the idea of chesed, they're the ones that serve in the temple because they wanted to draw on the energy of chesed. However, when Mashiach comes, then we'll be able to handle the level of Gevurah. So then what's going to happen is the Levites, who represent the idea of Gevurah, they're the ones going to be serving in the temple. And Rebbe goes on to say, you can add an explanation of what it says in the Rambam. That the Rambam says the reason why the Olam Haba, the world to come, Olam means world, Haba, the world to come, is called with this name of Olam, world, Haba to come, not because it's something of the future. But why is it called Olam Haba? Because the world to come, it comes out as a byproduct through our work in this world. So Olam Haba means, yeah, technically it's coming in the future, but it's coming in the future based on the work that we're doing now. So in other words, what does that mean? That the revelation, which is going to be in the future, we already have it now because we're the one building the future. So therefore, since the future is technically being built now, so therefore Koirach says, 1 second, in the future, who's going to be the ones in charge? The Levites. Because of Gevurah. So let's make it happen now. Let's reveal the power of the Levites today. And especially based on the famous teaching and saying of the Rebbe Marash, the fourth Chabad Rebbe, who used to teach the famous teaching of L'chatchila Ariber, which means if you're facing a challenge, so the normal way is you deal with it in a normal way. If not, you go here, and then if not, you jump on the top. So the Rebbe Rash always said, just to begin with, go straight to the top. Go straight to the highest level. So that's one of his famous teachings. But he has another famous teaching. What's the other teaching that he has? It says in the Mishnah, schar mitzvah mitzvah. The reward of a mitzvah is the mitzvah itself. In other words, what does that mean? That at the moment when you are fulfilling a commandment of Hashem, you already have the reward now, which is going to be revealed in the future when Mashiach comes. So when you do a mitzvah, the reward comes in the future. Comes along the Rebbe Marash and he says, schar mitzvah mitzvah, you know that reward that you're going to get in the future? You already have it now. The only thing is, it's like laying in a safe, and you also have the key to the safe, but the point is you're not going to be able to access it and use it and benefit till Mashiach comes, but you have it now. It's yours now. You just can't access it and use it till later. So that's why Korach came along and he said, 1 second, we already have the reward for the future. We know the future is going to be the Levites. It's all going to be at Gevurah. So let's make it today that the Levites should be the priest. Let's bring the future in the present. And based on this, we'll understand why Korach argued and he said a talis, a prayer shawl, which is completely made out of tcheles, blue wool. You don't need to have the tzitzis, you don't have the strings attached to it. Why is that? Because on a spiritual level, what is the idea of a talis? So a talis in Hebrew it's called a makif. It covers you over. It's not like a jacket that goes on your sleeves. It fits you at a certain fit. A talis is something which hovers over on a physical level. On a spiritual level, it's makif. It's very, very powerful energy. And like we see literally that a talis, you put it over the person. In other words, the head and most of the body, etc. If you have obviously a kosher talis, it covers most of your body. Now, even the small part that doesn't cover, but since according to Torah and according to Jewish law, you're considered someone that's wrapped in a talis, so the Torah establishes the fact that the talis, the part that it covers you physically, but the part that doesn't cover you, it's included by the part that it covers you. Therefore, according to the Torah, and that's the truth, because everything from the Torah is the truth, the fact is the whole person is enclosed and it is wrapped up in the talis. And especially the way it's on a spiritual level. Because talis is called what? Priest of the Malka. It's the part of God that covers over us. What does it mean practically? It's referring to the idea that we have Kabbalah's El Malcha Shemayim. We accept upon ourselves the yoke of heaven. So when you accept upon yourself, it's not just the brain is accepting and the heart is accepting and the body. When someone accepts, it's full acceptance. It means when you accept Hashem on you, Hashem is hovered all over you because you accepted Him. Now, so that's the idea of a talis. What is the idea? Where it covers you over, totally wrapped in it. What's the idea of tcheles, the blue wool? So it says, brought down in the Talmud, it says like this, that the tcheles is compared to the sea, and the sea is compared to the sky, and the sky is compared, it's similar to the Kisei HaKavod, the God's throne. Which basically, what does it mean is God's throne? It's literally the seat and the place for, I'll say it in Hebrew, I'll translate it. It's the place where the infinite part of Hashem sits. In other words, what does that mean practically? That a talis, which is totally blue. In other words, it's the highest level of hovering over. A, it hovers over. B, it's the blue part is connected literally to the essence of Hashem. So therefore, Korach came along and he says, what? You have a talis, which is totally blue, which means on a spiritual level, it hovers over, and it's reaching Hashem Himself. So who needs the tzitzis? Why do you need the strings? And as you have the makif, you have the part that totally hovers over you and is connected to Hashem Himself. Why do you need those tzitzis, those strands, which is only referring to on a spiritual level the kav, the small light that comes after the tzimtzum. You have the infinite part of Hashem, which is before the tzimtzum. Who needs a light that's after the tzimtzum? So when you put on a talis, now you have a whole different perspective. By putting on a talis, you're literally wrapping yourself up with the infinite Hashem. The tzitzis is the part that internalizes. So Korach says, 1 second, if you have the greatest power, the makif of the infinite part of Hashem, why do we need a kav which comes after the tzimtzum? In other words, what was Korach trying to accomplish? He was trying to accomplish the revelation of the future. That what's going to happen then, the Levites are going to be the priest, and we're going to realize the real power of Gevurah, and So what's going to happen then is we're going to be able to bring in the greatest powerful levels of Makka, which is much power than previous. And you won't need any contractions of light. So that was Korach, this brilliant person he was trying to bring the future now. However, unfortunately, the truth is Korach made a big mistake. Because the world wasn't ready for it yet. Like it's brought down in the Chesidic discourse at length. So his vision, his plan was idealistic. He had a very powerful plan, a good plan. But the problem was he was premature. It was before its time. Now, in Likutei Torah from the Alter Rebbe, he brings, from the Medrash Rabbah, another reason for Korach's argument. In other words, what was the other reason for his argument? That he was jealous. He was jealous from Aaron. What was he jealous from Aaron? Because in reference to the Levites, what does it say in the Torah? The Heviru Sar, they have to go ahead and shave their body. On the other hand, Aaron was totally beautiful. He was wearing his beard, like it says in the prophets, good oil that would go down on the beard of Aaron. So Korach was part of the Levites had to shave. On the other, and we'll soon see, by the way, whether it's okay to shave or not. We'll get to that in a minute. But the point is that Korach had to shave, and Aaron had a beautiful, beautiful holy beard. What does that mean practically? That Korach was jealous that Aaron had a beard. And however, Korach was commanded to cut off his beard. He didn't have a beard. And Korach wanted that. So that was another argument he had. And the Rebbe says, you see me, you can say, based on that, in other words, Korach, on one hand, says you don't need the strands. By the tzitzis, you don't need the strands. You don't want the tzimtzumim. So if the question is, why was he arguing? It's an opposite argument. According to the first thing with the talis and the tzitzis, what was he saying? I want the makif. I don't want the strands which comes from the tzimtzum, small lights. Here we're saying is he wanted the strands of the beard, which is the small lights. Well, what's the idea? But now there goes into a side note. We'll get back to the main point. The Rebbe says in the Likutei Torah, the Alter says, he explains what's the reason why Korach was jealous of Aaron. And he says that because he was jealous that Aaron has the power to draw down holiness in the Jewish people through the Cyrus, through the strand. Why? Because he was saying this, what do you mean? Why do you need strands at all? If you have the talis, which has all the power, what do you need the strands for? So therefore he felt that he could accomplish that without the strands, without the tzitzis. But the fact is, the simple pshat in the Medrash is that he was jealous of Aaron. In other words, he also wanted to have the beard. So if that's the case, how is it in line with the idea of Cyrus? Okay. So the main question I was asking is, on one hand, what's the second reason? Well, he's jealous because of the strands. And how does it go in line with it? He didn't want the strands by the tzitzis. That brings another side point is that, he wanted to know why Aaron had the power to bring it in versus he didn't. But again, that's another insight. But let's stay back to the point. And there brings out like this, and to point out that this obligation that the Levites had to go ahead and shave, because everyone knows we don't shave, we keep our beards on. Torah says you should shave. That was only once in the desert, and it was not a commandment for future generations. In other words, so once there was a commandment to take off the hair in the desert for the Levites, but afterwards, no, you're 100, you need to have the beard, even for the Levites. And on the contrary, they're not allowed to cut off the five parts of the beard. Besides in certain cases, if it was a leopard, then you have to, for purity reasons, etc. Now, the Rebbe goes on to say as follows. Torah, we know, is everlasting. It's everlasting. In other words, every part in the Torah teaches us a lesson forever and for every single person. So in other words, from here you see that even in this whole story, there must be a lesson for every one of us. What does it mean? What's the lesson? That we have to have a talis. We need a makif, the powerful, huge energy of the infinite God, but we need a talis that has to have tzitzis on it. You need to have the strands that bring in after the tzimtzum into premius. And also you need to have a house which is full of 100 books all over the place. But then again, you cannot forget the mezuzah on the doorpost. In other words, it's not enough to try to get the big lights. the big books and the big makif, etc., which you need to, but you also have to bring in bepinis, you have to internalize it, which is represented by the tzitzis on the talis and the mezuzah on the doorpost of the house. And especially, the Rebbe says, in this time that we're living, that we don't have the blue purple wool in this day and age, and like it's explained in a powerful letter of the Rebbe Rashab, that that we don't have tchelas, not just we don't physically have it. That Arizal explains Kabbalistically a very, very powerful reason why we don't have tchelas. So in other words, that even Koirach will admit that today you can't have a talis without tzitzis because you don't have those strands. So you have to have the talis and you also need the tzitzis. Okay. The Rebbe finishes off and he says like this: it should be the will of Hashem that we should merit very, very soon to have the revelation of the tchelas, and to be able to fill the mitzvah of tzitzis in its complete way, because today we only have the regular strings, we don't have the colored strings. And that will bring us to do the mitzvahs in a complete way, because as we know that the tzitzis is compared to all the mitzvahs. And it's understood, like even someone that doesn't know the deep insights of the talis and the tzitzis, etc., any person could do the mathematical equation of tzitzis, and we know that tzitzis numerically, so the tzitzis is made up of 5 letters: tzadik yud, and saf. Tzadik is 90, yud is 10, tzadik is 90, and yud is 10, and saf is 400. So basically that's 600, and there's 8 strings, and there's 5 knots. So you have 613. So you have a total of 613, which represents all the 613 commandments, which in there is included the 7 biblical commandments, because they're not extra, they come from the commandments of the Torah, and all these we're going to have, Mashiach comes, and we're able to do, as it says, k'mitzvahs, we're going to do the mitzvahs just like the Ratzon of Hashem, how we should do it. And what's going to happen then is, when Mashiach comes, it's going to be fulfilled what it says at the end of the Torah portion: Ani chelkacha v'nachlosecha, I am your part in your inheritance. In other words, Hashem is going to be the part and inheritance of the tribe of Levi, and it includes all the Jewish people. Like the Rambam says clearly, that every single person that wants to dedicate himself to serving Hashem, you're just like you're Shevat Levi, because Shevat Levi is one that serves Hashem. So anybody who wants to serve Hashem, you're just like the tribe of Levites. And not only that, in the future when Mashiach comes, the tribe of Levi is also going to have a part in the land of Israel. Like it says clearly in the prophecy of Yecheskel, so it says over there, it describes the dividing of the land of Israel, and it says, Shar Levi Echad. So you see that the Levites have a place in the land of Israel. And based on when it's known that those that taste will merit life, in other words, what does that mean? That even before the redemption of the future, we have to taste it. So in other words, so obviously we have it exist on some kind of level even now as well. Even though the tribe of Levi did not have a place in the land of Israel, but the fact is the Rambam writes halacha, Jewish law, but he also writes yira li, it seems to me. In other words, it's a level in the oral law which even in relation to the actual halacha of the Rambam, that he writes over there, that this is only said that the Shevat Levi does not have a part in the land of Israel. It's only in the part of the land of Israel that was given as a bond from God to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as an inheritance to their children, and it was divided up to them. However, all the other part of the land that the kings of Israel conquered, so over there, in the expanded part, the priests and the Levites in that part of the land could have a part in it. And the Rebbe says it's already discussed in other places as well, what the law is with the land of Keni, Knizi, and Kadmoini, in reference to the tribe of Levi as well. But however, when it comes to the future, when Mashiach comes, it says clearly that, like the Rebbe quoted before from the prophet, Shar Levi Echad, and the same thing also gives a sign for every one of the other tribes. So therefore, obviously, the Shevat Levi is also going to have a place in the land of Israel. Israel. But the main thing the Rebbe finished off and he says should be the will of Hashem, that it should happen very, very soon, and the verse and the prophet should be fulfilled. God will be the ultimate cling, and by Yoim Ahu and Dante Mashiach comes, Hashem Achad. There'll be one Hashem. His name will be one, and most importantly, it's going to happen. Take care from Miyad Mamash. So here you see another beautiful, powerful teaching of the Rebbe, Chassidus discourse, where he explains what is the source of Koirach. Koirach was a smart person. He wanted to bring the future. He wanted us to experience what's going on when Mashiach comes. But unfortunately, he's before his times. But the fact is, Rebbe says, today we're living in a time, yes, we have to have a talis, we need the tzitzis, we have the Bayis Smalis farm, we need the mezuzah. And most importantly, let's hope and pray that we all dedicate ourselves to Hashem, and God willing, as Rebbe finished off and says, we'll all merit to see V'hoisla Hashem Amlucha, and we'll all go with Mashiach to Eretz Yisrael, in Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh, and God willing, our next class will be in Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh. Have a great and blessed week. Shavua Tov.